the boundaries started to get crossed when her dad would start calling me on the weekends. And she really needs to talk to you. She won't talk to me. She's crying. She said only she will talk to Miss Youngquist. And so I'd be on the phone with her. And after that happened, the next Monday, I said, girl, I love you. I'm here for you. But you cannot call me on the weekends. She was devastated. She took it very personally. And actually, that day, she tried to jump out the window in my classroom. Wow. We were on the first floor. It is not a big deal.
But the fact that she was trying to escape out the building.
She was trying to escape out the building.
So first, thank you for allowing me to interview you. I know it takes a lot of preparation sometimes to do things like this, so I appreciate you being here today. So we're going to get started. First, what is your name? Introduce yourself.
My name is Carolyn Youngquist. And I was going to say more, but then I didn't.
All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. Well, what made me want to interview you is like working with you and seeing you interact with the kids. It's kind of a standout thing that I haven't seen in a while, and I've been working with kids for over a decade now, but they're just like drawn to you. It's like a combination of Mary Poppins and Miss Honey from Matilda. So
that's like the biggest compliment I've ever heard.
So I wanted to get your insight on kind of working with kids. So first question, how did you get into the role of how did you get into working with the youth?
So in high school, I needed a job, and my friend was working at this Taekwondo studio. They do like after-school programming. And so I applied and I got it. At the time, I wanted to be a psychologist. So when they were interviewing me, I was like, I want to work with kids so I can be a psychologist. And working with them through like that after-school setting, I just loved it because we played a lot of games. I got to really know the kids and the families. It just felt like I was in my element, kind of. Right. I always babysat and stuff when I was younger, so that was kind of when I realized, oh, I think I want to be a teacher. So I worked there for a while, and then throughout high school, and then eventually I was promoted to be their after-school and summer camp coordinator at 18. So that was awesome, and I loved it. And then I moved away for college and decided to be a teacher.
Okay. Go a little bit into your teaching role, or your role as a teacher, and how you kind of transition to what you're doing now.
So in college, I had an internship with the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, and I was the education intern, and I interned there for 3 years, and I loved it. I was a teaching artist in all these different CPS schools in Rothenburg, Hayes Porter, Euler, South Avondale, and again, it was an after-school position, which is so funny that I'm here today. But I really liked working with them because I felt like I had a lot of flexibility to be creative and really tailor my lessons to the specific kids. It just furthered my interest in being a classroom teacher. So I was in school actively for music education, and I knew I wanted to teach choir. Middle school choir was my goal, and right out of college, I got there. Middle school choir. That was my first job out of college, and I loved it, but working in the public school system was a lot different than I thought, and I didn't have as much creative freedom. I didn't have a classroom. I had to teach in the cafeteria. Wow. I didn't really get a lot of support from my admin. It was not a very positive experience, but I remembered all of the times that I had after-school roles and working with various nonprofits. So I was like, nonprofit after school sounds like the way to go. And then I just happened to see this on ArtsWave, and so that's how I kind of transitioned into this.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because a lot of people who I've known that wanted to be teachers who get into that role, they're kind of taken back once they get into the position. They realize the reality of what it is to be a teacher, and a lot kind of choose to go a different path. But I'm glad that you were able to stay involved with youth and working with kids. So I want to kind of move in. I know you touched on the creative aspect and not really having creative control. Yeah. So let's dive into, what is your process for development and trust building when you're working with kids?
I really think, I don't know. Okay, this is kind of like a weird thing to say, I guess, but I feel like when I'm talking to a kid, I just feel like I really see them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I really connect with people easily because I feel like I'm very open. I don't know if you're spiritual or anything, but I just feel like I have a connection with people. And so when I talk to kids, I think the reason why they're drawn to me is because they're like, oh, she's like talking to me, you know? And that's something that I really value, is having kids feel like they are special and they are an individual. And so my process really is just to understand what they're into. I'm into a lot of things that kids are into, so it's easy to like connect with them because I understand the internet lingo, and I love making slime, and I'm playing with a puppet right now, and so all those things, I just feel like they kind of see me as one of them, but not in a negative way.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, like seeing them. I think that's a huge component of it, because when I was thinking about what questions I wanted to ask you, and I'm thinking about like on my experience as a kid and remembering some of the teachers or remembering adults in general, it was just like they're an adult. They're kind of like this big scary person. They don't seem like they're human. But now being older and working with kids and seeing like, no, we're pretty much all just grown kids. We still kind of have that inner child within us. It's just being able to tap into that and be able to share that with the kids themselves, is let them see like, hey, no, they're all adults aren't scary, or they aren't just someone trying to tell you what to do. They can actually be pretty fun and cool.
Exactly, yeah.
So when you're working with them, let's talk about like maintaining boundaries while connecting with your inner child. Because I know for myself, it's taken me a while to kind of learn the boundaries of being that friend, but also being I guess an adult role model.
Yeah.
And it's a very fine line. Can you talk about your experience with that?
Yeah, that is definitely something that I struggle with for sure, especially students who are particularly at risk. Like, I feel like I have a responsibility as a community member to like be there for them and support them in ways. I'll share a little bit about this student when I was teaching middle school. I'll call her A. She was someone who just like really needed a female role model in her life. Her mom wasn't present, and her dad was like a pothead, like just wasn't really active in her life, and she had a lot of siblings, and she was a middle child, just very much felt like invisible to a lot of people, right? And didn't have a ton of friends or anything, but she was an amazing singer. She was in my choir, and just incredible singer. So it started off after school, I would give her voice lessons, and it was a really great opportunity for her to have a positive relationship. Just keep going. Okay, to have a positive relationship with like with an adult, with a trusted adult. And eventually I started having like lunch with her. I'd eat lunch with her. I tried to help her get friends. And then it started being like an everyday thing. All of a sudden I'm like, she's in my room every day. Like, I'm eating lunch with her every day. Her dad started calling me on the weekends. She needs to talk to you. Something's going on.
And we're back. That's just some of the things that happens when you work in a school. So.
Absolutely. So the boundaries started to get crossed when her dad would start calling me on the weekends. And she really needs to talk to you. She won't talk to me. She's crying. She said only she will talk to Miss Youngquist. And so I'd be on the phone with her. And after that happened, the next Monday, I said, girl, I love you. I'm here for you. But you cannot call me on the weekends. She was devastated. She took it very personally. And actually that day she tried to jump out the window in my classroom. Wow. We were on the first floor. It is not a big deal.
But the fact that she was trying to escape out the building.
She was trying to escape out the building. I'm grabbing her arm. Don't leave. She said, everyone hates me. No one cares about me, all these things. And now I am caught in this weird situation where, like, how do I maintain boundaries with someone who is so vulnerable and like craving that connection so badly? That was a big lesson for me. It was lots of meetings with counselors, lots of this, lots of that. I really didn't want to be perceived in the building as someone who is too close with kids, because that's not a good look. So that was definitely a challenge. And leaving that position, she was one of the reasons why it was so hard to leave that position. And actually, she still emails me to this day. When I left, like the first week that I was gone, she FaceTimed me like every day. And I had to decline because it's just not appropriate. And so after that, I definitely learned to maintain boundaries like from the start, you know, and the first time that I didn't want to eat lunch with her, I should have said, hey, it's my lunch, you know, but it is tricky. And actually, after I left the classroom, I worked for this nonprofit called Youth Build, and we worked with high school students who dropped out, and we would help them get their diplomas and stuff. And so I was like their academic advisor, but also taught construction skills I'm not a construction person, but and so I was very involved in their lives, and a couple kids, you know, I have to drive them home and things like that. But I learned from my relationship with A that I really need to be like, this is my position in your life, and, you know, but I'm still able to be there for kids and mentor them in a less personal way, I guess. And maybe that was just a unique one-time thing that probably wouldn't be recreated with any other student, but definitely like a big boundary lesson for sure.
And I say that because it is tough, because in my personal opinion, you have to make some type of genuine connection with them for them to be able to trust you and be like, okay, this person is someone who I can come to. And then our whole job is helping them develop and making sure that they're able to move on to the next grade or whatever it is, and they are properly prepared for whatever is to come. So it is tough, but how did that kind of impact your inner child and navigating and moving forward?
Yeah, I think I always have approached things in a way of like, I want to be someone who I wish I had when I was younger or whatever. Not that I feel like I was deprived of anything when I was younger. I think I, you know, had a pretty okay setup. But what's your question? How did it impact my inner child?
Yes.
I think it's been healing in a lot of ways, because I've held like a lot of resentment for certain things, and through working with kids, I kind of realized like all adults are really just winging it. Like, we really are. We are all just doing our best. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or what, but I feel like people just are always having to reinvent the wheel all the time. Like, there are never solid procedures. You go into any place of business and it's a mess, like everywhere. And so it's really given me a lot of grace for the adults in my life as a child. And yeah, I think it's just, yeah, it's made me give a lot of grace to a lot of people that I previously held resentment for.
Yeah, I can say the same thing, because I think I mentioned earlier, it just made me realize that everybody is just a grown-up kid, and it's just, there isn't a day that signifies, I mean, I guess if you turn 18, but there isn't a day that signifies, okay, you're an official adult. You don't feel that transition. It's just kind of, okay, I'm kind of used to this. I have more responsibility.
Yeah.
But I think we should be able to do a better way of making that transition into adulthood.
I think so too.
Because
Yeah.
it is not easy. And like you said, just myself working with kids has kind of been a healing process for me as well.
Definitely.
And then lastly, to kind of wrap things up, is there anything else that you've learned or that children have taught you since working with them?
Yeah, they have taught me so much. I think the biggest thing that they've taught me, and I don't mean this in a funny way, is patience. They have, even just like with kindergartners, for example, it takes them 10 minutes to get one sentence out of their mouth, you know? And it's really easy to be like, all right, what are you trying to say? Like, and predict the rest of their sentence, but just giving them time to really process their thoughts and form it themselves, or giving kids time to regulate their emotions, to have, you know, times to scream and cry. And I don't know, it has really taught me patience, especially with myself. Like, I've given myself grace with my own feelings and thoughts, and I'm not saying this very coherently, but patience is a lame answer too, but
I think it's valid. I mean,
yeah.
I've definitely experienced that as well, whereas just the other day I'm sitting in class, and when I told you, you asked me how the class went, and I'm like, I kind of jumped the gun.
Yeah.
I'm asking them about a genre, and they're like, or I'm asking them like, all right, what's a goal? And they're like, I'm like, oh, goodness. All right,
Yeah.
let's take a step back. But being patient enough to work with them and realize they're children.
Yep.
They aren't adults.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to maybe talk to them like that and kind of help them develop, but you have to meet them where they're at.
Yeah. The other thing is like being silly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very naturally silly person, but kids really bring it out in me so much because at the end of the day, they just want to play.
Exactly.
And I love that so much. For example, I had a student one year who we were like reading the roster or whatever. He said his name is Obama. It's not his name. That's not what the roster said, but I called him Obama all year because who cares? Like,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so just, whereas maybe other people would have been like, stop playing around, that's not your name, but I was just like, okay, Obama, like, what's up, just letting them have those moments and just playing along with them sometimes. Actually, there was a kid tutoring a couple weeks ago. He said his name is Computer, and he only said beep, beep. So, okay, so we sat there and we had a beep, beep conversation for like 2 minutes, and then he moved on. Like, it's just play along with them a little bit, and I think, too, kids get embarrassed really easily, but if they see adults be okay with, not worrying about looking stupid or whatever, then it maybe will give them the realization, like, oh, I can be silly forever, and it's okay. But also having the time and place.
Right.
If they see the adult, oh, they can be silly sometimes, but they can also be serious sometimes. There's, like, time and place for it. So they've definitely helped me learn a lot of those types of things.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And this has been 20 minutes or less.
Wonderful.